And we are back. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jed, and we are in the Socrates and Jesus, a Dialogue in Heaven book that bangs so much. Will this break everything? No, everything is still working. So, we have been exploring what Socrates has instructed us to explore. How do we move? Well, once we've seen through or seen enough about the significance of belief as a cognitive function, that's the cause of our problems primarily, and we can move from belief into understanding. We can also we can see that as true philosophy, because it's through understanding we can prepare our mind for higher experiences of our own mind, self, and reality. Therefore, it's the spiritual method, understanding. It's also the learning method, and it's how we evolve as evolving beings. Making use, of course, of ousia and logos, the capacity for self-reflection and the capacity for language, which marks our stage of evolution as human beings, different from cows and cabbages and caterpillars. So, understanding's where it's at, dude. Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke.
Once you're in the game of understanding, and I don't mean understanding how many beans there are in China, I mean understanding the nature of self and reality, then we can go through stages of development on that quest. Now, Socrates would like a map of said stages, and Jesus recommended we do a sequel to the dialogue called Socrates and Buddha. A dialogue between Socrates and the Buddha. Of course, Buddhism is a tradition where they recognize there are different states of being. It's different from religion in that religion doesn't allow for growth, learning, change of any kind. You just do as you're told because that's belief. It's a real danger, and we are, of course, seeing at the time of recording the danger of belief playing out in real time. Of course, we've been seeing the danger of belief play out within our species since caveman times, because we're seeing people who have blind loyalty to their family clan beliefs being manipulated by politicians, right wing in particular, although the left wing aren't doing anything to help, and religion, of course, being used to justify genocide, the Nazis taking over America, disgusting capitalism, etc., etc. We can trace the root of all of these problems down to one word: belief, as a way of perceiving reality. Now, much of this dialogue has been about understanding that, and the cautionary tale of Jesus, someone who has had an insight but failed to examine his own family clan religious beliefs, playing out a tragic end. Actually, not a tragic end, a pathetic end, because in a tragic hero story, the tragic hero realizes his tragic flaw, that he should have reflected on. His own way of being was the cause of his demise, but when it's too late to do anything about it. Jesus, of course, does not do this in the story of Mark. He finishes his story with, "God, you've abandoned me." And we know for a fact that the magicking from the dead resurrection part in the story was added hundreds of years later by the church. The church who killed philosophers for wanting to understand and brought in the Dark Ages. And of course, every other disgusting tragedy that follows as a result of religion, belief. Because belief has nothing to do with truth. In fact, it's in opposition to truth because it prevents the development of understanding. Because if you understand you don't have to believe the guy in the funny hat, right? And you change your mind, which means you're no longer on the right team. So all of that horse shit that we are experiencing as a human species, belief. Now, hopefully we've seen enough about that and what it takes for someone who is genuinely open to explore their highest experiences with understanding, as well as reflect on the cause of our problems and counterattacks belief. That's the conversation we've been reading that Socrates is having with Jesus. Now, over that, if you've seen enough of that, you might be open to developing further your own state of being and development. That's the dialogue that we are going to write, or that's the sequel. Now, the map, what we're using to, discover the map are the ox herding pictures, and we've been reflecting on the first 8. Now, there is a history behind the ox herding pictures. They weren't always 10. There had been other ones added, and I think the 9th and 10th were added much later. So, interesting. So we've been exploring the ox herding pictures 2 through 8, and we've even been aligning those to Socrates' own account of his development. How did he get into philosophy? Now, I'm peaking a little bit. Let's see if I can tame those peaks with my compressor. And yeah, bringing us to, what's on the other side of heaven? If the highest state of mind can be understood as the second hypothesis of Parmenides, or, which we had a brief look at last time, or the 8th ox herding picture, what's the 9th and 10th ox herding picture about? That's where we are. And without any further ado, let's jump on in. Let's jump in. Okay. Gotta make sure I'm not peeking. Let's jump in. That's the blackboard. That's me. Here we are. Gotta bring it up. Okay. There we go. Hold, please.
Hey man, wouldn't some kind of future where people have all their whatever basic med and they could do whatever the hell they want, wouldn't that be good? No,
yes.
It wouldn't.
What? Come on.
You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiot. So, grab my coffee. Number 1. Seeking the ox. No, not quite in the game as yet. Finding the tracks. Ooh, is there an intelligibility? Are problems solvable? Is there a significance to understanding? Can the problems caused by fascism and the people who are aligned with the most ignorant, harmful people, the right or the religious, is there a way of understanding those problems? Ooh, interesting. And the other side of that, understanding problems and developing excellence. Is there a need for a paradigm of excellence? Is there a need for an understandability of how to actually help people that the left wing is completely ignorant to? That's necessary, called the logos. If you are asking those questions, you may be in the second stage, the second ox herding picture, finding the tracks, the footprints of the ox. Now, perceiving the bull, first glimpse of the ox. You're in the game now. Maybe you've had a vision, or could be understanding, or a dream. Those are the three big ones. Understanding, direct experience or vision, and dreams. Now we've been exploring the fact that dreams can give understanding and experiences, making dreams super important. Maybe you've had an insight that there is a source to what we experience, and maybe that this source is everywhere present, and maybe it's at the root of all of your senses. Maybe your senses are kind of like what would you call it? The tentacles of the octopus. And it's the same octopus. What do we do about that? Catch the bull, catch the ox. We need there's a great will and power in how we've been living, pulling us back into our old habits, traditions, family clans, or as Socrates talked about, his old friends and their old ways of being. We have to escape those to develop. But yes, our habits yearn for what we thought was good but aren't. The unhealthy tendencies. We must tightly grasp the rope. So we're wondering, what exactly is the rope? Number 5, taming the ox. We still may stray down tangents or dusty roads or old habits or back into our muddy haunts, but we're all also having some success in our state of mind. When we are having success, our mind becomes more naturally gentle. Clean and gentle when we're properly tending to our mind. And obviously we're practicing what we need to do to develop. At the end of 5, we're wondering about what would it be like to be untethered? So here we are guiding the ox. Well, we're riding the ox home. The struggle is over. We can function with the ox. We can use our mind and our state of mind and the perception of those footprints and the existence of mind. All of those things we've been experiencing and understanding along the way, we can use them to ride the ox. Use our mind in a way that benefits woodsmen and even the village children. Harmony is a big theme. Harmony speaks to the inherent order that exists behind things in our world, like music. And it also speaks to the fact that if you have a grasp of them, if you can see through this inherent order, you can use it to create things and benefit. So Socrates also talked about, as we read last time, recognizing there was an inherent order or harmony that when used in a certain way can give rise to the emergence of beauty. So music is a fantastic illustration of what we're here to do as human beings. Find the logos of the inherent order and harmony behind our reality and learn to glimpse it, catch it, tame it, ride it, benefit through it, function through it. Number 7, ox forgotten, or the ox transcended. Ox forgotten, self alone. There is no two-ness. You've separated the gold from the dross. So everything you've been learning about logos, third hypothesis, logos, understanding through which providence is bestowed, the dialectic. Last time we got the quote of what true philosophy is. True philosophy is exploring ideas of self. It's nothing to do with belief or opinions, because Kant would say some fucking bullshit.
Kant would say some fucking bullshit.
We got it. It's exploring ideas of the self to see for yourself. Seeing, of course, through both understanding and direct experience, which can verify your understanding. So nothing to do with belief or guessing or make-em-ups. So exploring ideas of the self through your own seeing via the method of the dialectic. And last time we heard Socrates talk about how he got that from his teacher Parmenides. And we can also read the Parmenides ourselves and now done the dialectic. And we've been practicing that all the way through our reading, because that's applying the dialectic is part of reading. It's also how you understand dreams. So Socrates talks about after learning the dialectic, he was able to listen to unpack the meaning of his dreams. So the whip and the rope are in the house, and here we are sitting serenely, no longer needing the method of midwifery to remove our pathologos. It's very significant that in order to free yourself from your own false beliefs, it's easy to point at fascists or right-wingers or religious people, to say, well, these people are stupid and ignorant, and justifying all sorts of fucking terrible harm and suffering and torture and abuse of all sorts of people because I believe it. Therefore, it's true. My pastor, minister, imam, rabbi, preacher told me, president told me. Who gives a fuck if you believe it? It's disgusting. I don't care. I'm a loyal member of the tribe. Easy to see in everyone else's way of being, but it's a root fundamental problem that we all have. It's the source of all human problems because we all were at one stage not a master of the logos, and we're all at one stage as a little baby or child dependent upon people who wanted to pretend to be knowers. So in other words, it's everyone's purpose to go through these oxiding pictures. And if we can recognize that, hey, you will only free yourself from the injustice that you inflict knowingly or unknowingly when you've reached the 7th oxherding picture, then we could say what's our ethical responsibility as citizens and our moral duty to reach the 7th oxherding picture of enlightenment. And we can't free ourselves from our root fundamental false belief of self that is the cause of our problems unless we have been practicing. We have to go through 6. We have to abandon our old ways of being in 1. Greed for worldly gain, dread for loss, using ideas of right and wrong to chimp people to catch them doing something wrong so you can justify sadism under the bullshit lie of punishment to teach them a lesson. Disgusting, sick, savage human beings we are when we're in 1. We have to be reading something, talking to someone, in 2, to discover that there is a meaning and intelligibility in our reality. Problems can be solved and excellences can be achieved. Then you got to jump in with 3. Jump in, look for something beyond your everyday experiences. Then you have to tame what you've seen. Struggle against your old habits to develop discipline, to develop the virtues. To do reading, dream analysis, midwifery as much as you can. In 4, and then hey, you start to have some success. You start to experience yourself in reality differently. Different states of mind. 5, and now you can function through it. You've had enough of that experience of being midwifed or going through the dialectic to actually help others through this process. And that's interesting because helping others or passing on the tradition or being a dialectician or midwife to other people seems to be a necessary step for your own freedom from your own pathologos and your own problems. But we're still dreaming, still having the same kinds of dreams, even though we may be free of our pathologos. And the ox is not vanished. We're still exploring mind. But we're waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the gift of 8. Both ox and self transcended. Now, the false idea of self, of course, is being referred to in here. The person, the rope, and the ox all merge into a oneness. Or no thing. No, I think no thing is not the right translation, but there you go. It's not a thing. What's beyond physical experience? It's not a concept. All of our delusive feelings, what we would call the pathologos, have perished. And even pride in your achievement, because that would have to be identified with an image of the self. And even shame. Or even shame at being too prideful. Any of it. So we're no longer grasping or rejecting. Stay humble. No, that's stupid. What's that mean? Diminish your achievements? Be blind because some people don't like when you have success? That sounds like you grew up with sadists, or not sadists, bullies. Sounds like a Cinderella syndrome. To say humble, you should be humble. Screw that. Be super confident, be the alpha dog. No, that's stupid as well. You're just inflating your image of yourself with nonsense. What if you actually understood and experienced yourself and knew yourself properly? The 8th oxiding picture, knowing mind as reality, or a oneness. Not even 1,000 eyes of the 500 Buddhas and patriarchs can discern a specific pathologos quality. Whip, rope, and ox all belong to emptiness. Again, I don't like the word emptiness. I think that's probably a mistranslation, or maybe it loses something in the translation to English. We would say oneness. So vast and infinite the azure sky is that no concept, so it's not a thing, it's not a concept, and there are no delusive feelings by our being associated or attached or identified with such a feeling, or as the Oracle has been saying lately,
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
oh no, every time I touch my computer, all of my USB things go crazy. So now I think I've lost the ability to change scenes with my little fucking pad here. Boo. Do I have sound effects still?
Brain rot escalates.
I
You
do.
moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiot.
Making ice cream is a good and courageous thing.
My head is quite large and filled with
And full of
secrets.
secrets. So, it ain't no secret to us that 8 is the second hypothesis, luminosity. Like a blazing fire, a snowflake cannot survive. Speaking of snowflakes, who are the biggest snowflakes? The fascists, the right wing, the religious people. The biggest Karens. By the way, what's their whole way of being? Projecting their pathologos onto the world. All the way in number 1. Projecting their pathologos. It's all projection. It's all projection. Using that projection as daggers to project your own ignorance onto others and respond to those. Because of your defilements, you've lost sight of the true nature of reality. And what's one of their biggest projections? Snowflake. Snowflakes. They call people who actually want to make the world a better place and solve problems snowflakes. Because they don't like their fascist ignorance. Why is it a projection? Because the moment, anytime anyone says anything bad about them, they cry like little babies. Or they put on masks and shoot people in the face. As ICE has been doing to the American citizens, as we're seeing now. Or, justify the concentration camps America is setting up. Or justify the genocide that they're inflicting on the Palestinian people, etc., etc. So that's ironic that the word snowflake, the projection of people who are most tied to ignorance or family clan beliefs, functioning through beliefs, are themselves snowflakes, but here we see the word snowflake being used to be talking about, family clan identity, the pathologos idea of self, the root cause of human ignorance. So, in the direct experience of mind itself, your own snowflakeness, remember it's easier to see in others, but we have to find our own pathologos beliefs, that's what we're here for, because there are 2 parts of the game, purifying what's false and perfecting what's true. But notice, all the way through it's got both. Separating the gold from the dross. Having a good state of mind and not going into old muddy haunts in 5. struggling against unhealthy tendencies while we try to grasp our mind in four. Notice there's both all the way through. There's always the two parts. In 6, being able to sing the songs, but also not being upset by the ignorance of others. No matter how these the pathologos of others will express themselves towards you, you can see through it because now you can ride the bull. You can function as a dialectician, is our hypothesis. So in 8, no snowflakes or concepts or images or things that you identify with and the delusive feelings that are associated with. No mask. As well as the direct experience of the divine luminosity or fire. So this is the experience we were waiting for in 7. 7, you don't need the method because you're free, but, well, you want to experience it. Now let's move on. To 9. What's in 9? Reaching the source. Reaching the source. So the ox wasn't the source. You can merge into a oneness, but there's a greater source beyond that source of the footprints, the source of our learning, the source of our intelligibility, or what we would say, the paradigm of the dialectic, mind itself. Let's read it. Reaching the source. 2. Oh, reaching the source. Too many steps have been taken. Returning to the root and the source. So we were talking also about the first and final cause. Oh, I can't press my buttons anymore. Here we go. The first and final cause. So even the paradigmatic, the paradigm of the ox, the oneness of mind minding mind, person, method, and object, person, rope, and ox, all as oneness. Even that has its cause, and it's the source as the first, but also our goal as the final. Sounds like maybe the first hypothesis. Let's keep reading. Can't press the button. I forgot. Here we are.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find
Yes,
you.
You're going to find me.
And I'm going to get you.
And you're going to get me. Please don't. And if you do...
Like literally suck my dick, dude.
Oh my goodness. Spicy stream.
The primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
For cooling off. Emma knows about pools. Better to have been blind and deaf from the beginning. Wow. So many steps we've taken to reach the root and the source, that we better to have been blind and deaf from the beginning. Dwelling in one's true abode, unconcerned with and without. The river flows tranquilly on and the flowers are red. What does that mean about the flowers being red and the river still flowing? Now usually the last part of the poem is the anticipation of the next stage. Let's see the other version. Returning to the source. From the very beginning, there has not been so much as a speck of dust to mar the intrinsic purity. What the heck is he talking about here? Let's, how much can, I wish I could No, I'll try with this. I'm just talking to myself about my compressor button on my mixer. Ignore that. Brain rot escalates.
It makes sense.
Okay, I make sense.
Dude, suck my dick.
Come on. I hate when my sound drop people argue with each other.
Cool as a cube.
Cool as a cuke.
My head is quite
head is
large and filled with secrets.
Secrets. From the very beginning, there has not been so much as a speck of dust to mar the intrinsic purity. He observes the waxing and waning of life in the world. Wow, so we're observing the waxing and waning of life in the world while abiding unassertively. Interesting. So all this effort and training and discipline, especially in numbers 3 and 4, and while we practice in 6, and as we wait and in 7, experience in 8, well, no more assertiveness. What's that mean? In a state of unshakable serenity. One of the things we're looking for, what's encountered, what are the things, what's encountered, what's the state of mind, how does it function, and how does it conclude in a way that can anticipate its sequel. This waxing and waning is no phantom or illusion, but a manifestation of source. Ooh, everything we've learnt about the footprints, the method, and the ox, or the logos, the dialectic and mind, we can see as a manifestation of the self. All I'm doing is I'm using everything we've read yesterday and I suppose been learning all through the text to make sense of or to solve the puzzle of the metaphors that we're reading. Now, I might not be right. Apply your own. See if you can find the text in these pictures, which is, of course, the instruction Socrates gave to us. Why then is there any need to strive for anything? Ooh, so there's a negative. No longer striving. The waters are blue, the mountains are green. Alone with himself, he observes the endless changing. Now, what's the picture? What is that a picture of? I am going to search the internet for an alternative picture of the 9th ox herding picture. Oh, it's a picture of the environment. There's no man, there's no ox, there's no... So it seems. It's a picture of the tree in the stream. So I suppose the man represented, what, the soul? You've identified with the source now? He has... He's alone with himself. Interesting. Alone. How is it functioning? You're alone. What's that mean? You got some serenity. You're functioning unassertively. So let's green for the functioning, orange for the state of mind. Also observing. Is that a function? Repeats. So observing, if it's a repetition, it's an emphasis. He has returned to the origin. Come back to the source. So it's a return. The source, the first cause, and the final cause. That for the sake of which. But his steps have been taken in vain. What? We might as well have just stayed with the self. What does that mean? Then what's the whole point of going through this learning process? Incarnating into this world full of its injustice and ignorance, and only to learn. It is as though he were now blind and deaf. What does that mean? Oh, so many mysteries in this one. Seated in his hut. Well, the hut's not pictured, but I guess we're seated in a hut. So we're alone by ourselves in our own dwelling. He hankers not for things outside. Doesn't need to go and touch grass. I was going to say touch grass, but that's brain rot.
Jesus Christ, Emma, this is not Opie and Anthony or whatever the hell.
He's so far up his own ass.
Hey, stop fighting, you
You
two.
moron. You absolute. I'm eating the testicles of this bull, and I'm eating it raw. Raw bull balls. This is raw buffalo balls.
I don't see eating the testicles of the bull as one of the oxiding pictures, but there's a possibility. Something that a Joe Rogan podcast viewer might think is an oxiding picture. Eating the raw bull testicles. Something for all of us to think about, maybe. Where's our Joe Rogan drop? I only have one. I think I took it off my board. It's time to bring it back, I think. I miss it. What's it called? Okay. So, what does Joe say about the mysterious 11th oxiding picture? He says,
I don't want to eat a monkey.
Don't eat a monkey. That's funny because actually on his podcast he tells people to eat monkey testicles and alpha brain or something.
I'm eating the testicles of this bull, and I'm eating it raw.
No, don't eat it.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
Don't eat a monkey. Silly nonsense. Okay. Seated in his hut, he hankers not for things outside, be they monkeys or monkey testicles. Streams meander on of themselves, red flowers naturally bloom red. Now, we've seen enough from the earlier oxiding pictures to recognize the last line is often not about this one, but a way of moving forward. Is there something you can be curious about that moves you forward? For example, all the way back in the beginning, you're stuck in your problems. Why search for the self? I know what I am. Why search for the truth of reality? I know what the world is. Why learn about the truth about right and wrong or true and false? I was told about Jesus in the Bible. Why learn anything new? But the last line, he hears cicadas chirping in the trees. Might be something beyond your old way of being. The last one in number 2, finding the tracks. You've only seen the tracks. You haven't seen the logos itself or mind itself, but you've noticed some intelligibility maybe. Therefore, even the deepest gorges or topmost mountains can't hide the ox's nose. If there are tracks, if there is an intelligibility, if there are patterns and laws to reality and the universe, there must be a source anticipating the nose of the ox that have made these tracks. But notice, there's a negative version for each one of them. Anyone who says, I hate the environment, I hate people who are different from my own way of being, is not going to be curious about the songs that nature sings. They are going to hate nature and blow up nature and stay firmly attached to their ignorance. If you have started to notice some patterns in two, like let's say a empirical scientist, you could say, well, there are patterns in the universe, but that's just coinky-dink. Surely then there isn't a source to the patterns of reality. If there are physical laws that are always true over all of physical reality, there can't be a source to that. I am a closed-minded believer in atheism or whatever. So each possibility comes with its possible negative, but for us that's good because we can ask you, hey, where are you blocked? What's your highest vision? We can put that within the oxiding pictures, but also, what do you think is the reach of your mind? What do you think is not graspable or knowable? What do you think is not understandable? Because that will also put us in the oxiding picture, because it will be a testament to a negative version of this last line. 3, you've had an experience, but what artist could portray them? Some people have had a glimpse. This or that experience or near-death experience or mushroom experience or whatever, talking about Terence McKenna yesterday. Hey, oh, that's completely ungraspable. Well, there you're stuck. But the same exact line could be taken with curiosity and genuine wonder and interest for understanding. What artist could make sense of this experience? This is a wake-up call. A lot of people wake up to philosophy because they've had an experience and they're saying, well, who's talking about this? Ain't nothing in my religion talking about this. Ain't nothing on Friends or the Big Bang Theory talking about this. Ain't nothing in my culture talking about this. Oh, here's a philosopher talking about it. Yay! So, the end line. Let's go through them, might as well. It's only a few. Number 4, catching the ox. You tug at the ox by the nose, but it may well turn its head to its old haunts. What does that mean? May turn its head to its old haunts. What happens if it doesn't always? Because number 1, we are struggling to break it from its habits, and it ain't easy. But what if it was only sometimes? Number 5, only sometimes going back to those old haunts. Okay, now, is that compressed all the way up? Okay. Number 5, you're having some success, but what would it be like to be untethered, no longer needing the rope? Well, you're riding the ox now. You're not Look, he's not even holding the rope. He's playing the flute. Crystal flute, right?
I love this guy.
I knew you'd love me after I quoted one of your drops.
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be.
Maybe. Maybe you're right. Because
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
filled with secrets. Riding the ox home, but hey, wherever he goes, he creates a fresh breeze, doing it like your own method, your own style, but you're still participating in music, still doing the dialectic. While in his heart profound tranquility prevails, there's a state of mind. This ox requires not a blade of grass. What does that mean? What would it mean if the ox would no longer need food? The ox would be resting. The resting ox, or the ox forgotten. The ox is still there, but the ox too can rest. The last line, his idle whip and rope are still there. In his house, his idle whip and idle rope are lying. What does that mean? What can you have a question about? You can never be free of your problems. You always need the whip and the rope. People who are closed? What would it be like to be free, or to not even need the whip and the rope, to transcend the whip and the rope? Number 8. The whip or the rope has merged with the person and the ox into a oneness. But even in that, there are footprints of the ancient patriarchs or ancestors, meaning, hey, what would it be like to follow the footprints through divine luminosity or mind to the other side? Is there a source even of luminosity? If there's light, must there be a sun or a light bulb or a fire casting that light? What's the source? Now, equally so, this is a very good illustration of this principle we're looking at. There are many traditions who have not reached this through understanding, and therefore, having experienced the greatest experience, that's it. If you can't recognize the footprints, a big theme of learning all the way through, how can you recognize a different set of footprints? So unless you've been following the logos or understanding all the way to here, how can you not recognize without doing that, how can you recognize there is still the logos inherent to divine luminosity, only of a different kind, walking to a higher expression of the logos inherent in the source? In other words, if You see, if understanding has been your method, then you won't end with the last experience. So we mentioned earlier that the last oxidizing pictures were added by someone else who reached further than the first guy. So, understanding led us to our mind. Understanding the paradigm of mind allowed us to function most ideally. And when we experienced 8, we can recognize the footprints in luminosity. We can recognize that what we're experiencing is intelligible. It better be, because literally understanding the intelligibility of 8 is philosophy. Or metaphysics, you could say. Metaphysics is understanding the principles inherent to 8, which function or manifest in our world, and representing them through stories or mythology or analogies is theology or mythology. But again, only through understanding can you recognize that whatever is experienced must have a cause and effect, and that cause must be of a higher, more primary level of existence. Well, not existence, beyond existence, level of self, source. So, rejecting understanding or rejecting the intelligibility of oneness would be your block. But seeing the footprints could be your way forward. Oh, where do these footprints go? To the source, number 9. So the last line, the river flows tranquilly on, and flowers are red, or streams meander of themselves, red flowers naturally bloom red. What does that mean? Because you are here in 9. From the beginning, there has not been so much as a speck of dark dust to mark the intrinsic purity of the source. So, similar theme to as what is explained in number 7. The clouds have the rays of the rays of light from the moon. Now we want to get to the sun, but same thing, have broken through the clouds. So it's not that mind or source self needs to be purified. We need to move away the clouds or the barbaric fog, to quote the Republic, of our pathologos ignorance from our clan upbringing, giving us the cognitive function of belief, the cause of our suffering. So you could say, hey, all human sufferings is caused by clouds or fog, so long as you recognize it's the fog of a false identity with self, caused by belief, functioning as a way of making sense of the world through a projection or interpretation according to your belief. Cry bullying or projection or cycles of violence or never-ending suffering, all that sort of stuff is just being trapped in your fog. Similarly applies to recognizing the source, right?
Why can't these guys shut up, whether or not it's about Jesus?
Yes, that's another way. Why can't you shut up whether or not it's about Jesus, if it's any fog or belief, false belief about self especially. Okay. Observes the waxing and waning of life. Notice, observing seems pretty passive, doesn't it? While abiding unassertively, again passive, no effort, no striving, no need, no grasping or rejecting, but also passive watching, in a state of unshakable serenity. So we've upgraded, leveled up. The not being trolled by the ignorance of others that we saw in 6. Functioning as a dialectician, the ignorance of others. Try though one may to upset him, you remain undisturbed. And of course that improves gradually, blissful repose, even your mind is at rest, And then number 8, there's no quality of your identity attached to the physical world that others could even see. So anything they see, that's not me. So why would I be a snowflake? But here, unshakable, so completely unshakable serenity, while the waxing and waning is no phantom or illusion, but a manifestation of source. That's interesting, because a lot of Eastern or spiritual traditions talk about the physical world as illusion, or thoughts as well as illusion. But we saw in in 5, the idea that your thoughts are just delusion or a sickness is your own ignorance. And you recognize that thoughts are not unreal, since they themselves also arise from your true nature. That's what we listen to in our learning and in our purification. So the delusion of dismissing thoughts as ignorance would be the same as dismissing the physical world as not real either, which some traditions do. Everything is illusion, whatever, Maya. But it's not a phantom or illusion, says number 9. It's a manifestation of the source. And we nailed that down last time when Socrates was talking about, let's bring it up. He talked about what he learned from his teacher, Parmenides. Pause, listen to a sound drop.
Cool as a cuke.
Too small.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
Yes, courage and character, and walking through these ox-herding pictures. So he's talking about the courage and character it takes to go from 1 to 2, or maybe even 2 to 3 to 4. Okay, so now I can bring it up. Jibis and Suk. Okay. So last time we read Socrates talking about following the logos. Okay, so Socrates talking about what he learned from his teacher Parmenides. True philosophy is about the idea of self. If your philosophy isn't about the idea of self, it ain't true philosophy. If it's about, I don't know, grind set, Red Bull bullshit, if it's about Kant's opinions, because Kant would say some fucking bullshit.
I'm eating the testicles of this bull, and I'm eating it raw bull balls. This is raw buffalo balls.
Right, if that's your philosophy, it ain't true philosophy. It's not about that crap from the Joe Rogan sphere.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
It's about the true self. But bringing it to yourself to see it, so it's not a belief, it's your own seeing and understanding. Through the dialectic, there's the method, the rope and the whip maybe. But also the songs of the flute, as you ride the ox. What can be said of the one can also be said of the self. The one self, the source. Is that what we have recognized in 9, the source, the one self? Or the first hypotheses of Parmenides? With a singleness of vision, he guided me to show how the one self functions as the most divine, brilliant luminosity. The second hypothesis of Parmenides and the 8th ox-herding picture. He revealed through, let's fix, I don't know, my audio's not fun for me right now. He revealed through this dialectic that between any two moments there is a gap that reflects an outpouring or a divine providential nature whose source is the one self. Is that what we've been following in 4, 5, and 6 and functioning within 6? Understanding. So can we nail down understanding as the 6th ox-herding picture? Or the third hypothesis of Parmenides? He showed in a single stroke that the wall of belief, the 4th hypothesis, that harbors all those who believe is in the shadow of reality, which they cling to as real. The first oxiding picture. Ignorance. I know what's right and wrong, and it's just used to justify attacking the other. The Jews murdering the Palestinians, the Christians murdering the Muslims, the MAGA murdering American citizens, the rich murdering the poor through capitalism. Always the same shit. Very, very simple to understand. It's the fourth hypothesis, or the first oxiding picture. A relief came over me when he showed that the fifth hypothesis, the dualism so many take as real, is empty, since neither the one nor all that is can ever touch one another. I don't understand that last part. The one and other can't touch each other. I think this is what... See, it does touch each other. That's the oneness, or the overlap, or the eighth oxiding picture. Where is it? Yeah, the one another. The one another. Strict dualism says there is no. You can't touch mind in the middle or the source. I think maybe it's supposed to read, I got a relief when he showed me that this idea that the one can't touch the other is empty, or there is the one of the first hypothesis that isn't touched by the many. I don't know how that would show the falseness of strict dualism, to claim that we can't know, we are but ants. Can't press the buttons. Alright, so maybe it's just because the volume's too high on my headphones. Indeed, he put it all together, that all that I had seen together in such a way that I could not assume anything else was true. By the way, he demonstrated if you deny any of those 5 hypotheses, well, you can't, he doesn't reject the first oneself, but if you reject its functioning as luminosity, or its functioning as understanding or providence through the gap, that's what we're tapping into to find our way home. If you deny the ignorance of taking the shadow as the highest reality, belief, if you deny that, you can't. And if you deny people saying, well, we can't know what's beyond our physical experiences, strict dualism, there is a mind-body disconnection. You can't know your mind. If you deny any of those positions, you have to presume their existence. There has to be, if you explore those 6, 7, 8, 9 hypotheses of Parmenides, you will see that it has to be a fake ousia and logos in the shadow of belief and strict dualism, rejecting our benefit. Because if we didn't reject our benefit, every human being would be seeking the true ousia, knowingness, the 8th oxiding picture, and the true understanding activity from that model, the 3rd hypothesis, or maybe the 6th oxiding picture. Everyone would be doing well. Therefore, there has to be a cognitive function that opposes our own benefit. So fascists vote for fascists who will kill them. The leopard-eating face party. Oh no, MAGA won't kill me, I'm white. Yes, they fucking will. Yes, they will. The leopard eating face party will eat your face too. That's the ignorance, our savage loyalty to our own cause of suffering has to exist. Otherwise, if you take these two circles as whole and part, there would be no section of part that wouldn't want to, that would stay disconnected from the whole. It wouldn't be a Venn diagram. It would be a whole, and part would exist completely within the whole. There has to be some magnetic repulsion for there to exist part of that Venn diagram that allows for part to be different from whole. And same, different from other, all of the necessary two-ness for existence, comprehension, understanding. Or to go back to the map. So while it's the source of our problems and ignorance, you can't blow it up. We have to understand and move through it, evolve through it. Which also means there might be a higher purpose for our race if we do move through that ignorance, to guide other species through their own development, through that ignorance. So for everything that you've ever, everything you've ever experienced, oh my goodness, did it again. Everything you've ever experienced, perceived, everything that exists, everything in your dreams, it's a whole and part, same and different, like and unlike. So if these are the building blocks, there has to be a greater whole and a lesser, some way in which they relate, but also these two parts which don't touch. So I'm not sure which of those principles Socrates is pointing to here. Is he pointing to the fact that the one here doesn't touch the many? Or is he talking about the false idea here that the parts can't touch the whole isn't true because there exists this overlap? I don't know, but that's the principle. Lots of fun, and I can't press the buttons. I forgot.
Dude, suck my dick.
My goodness.
These absolute dullards, borderline
chimps,
wanna kiss
wanna
a
kiss a
fox.
Wanna kiss a fox.
That's anti-feminist in some
In
way.
some way, it's anti-feminist. That's what I said.
I'm eating the testicles of this
Oh my
bull,
goodness.
and I'm eating it raw.
Raw. Oh my goodness. That's one way of approaching the ox-herding pictures. Eating a testicle. Okay, back to the book. Right, so if you reject any of those positions, then that very act of rejecting shows you why that position isn't true, because you're assuming the thing you're rejecting in a certain kind of way. Jesus says, well, that's wonderful. You can bring it all together, and this act of bringing it all together into a complete map, understanding, perception of all reality that has to exist in this time, in any universe, in any multi-universe, is nothing other than following the logos.
It's a win-win.
Wow, it's a wow. Wow. Following the logos. That's a cool expression. Follow the logos. Can we make that a meme? Instead of saying, see you later, bro, we say, follow the logos, bro. Instead of saying, catch you on the flip side, we say, follow the logos. Wondrous it is. It is good that we have come together and shared what it is that we are. But let me confirm, says Jesus, in my own words, a key part of what you have said. You saw and made the connection between the gap and the divine timeless nature. Its timeless nature. Did that idea of the gap become a mean term for what you have sought to understand? For what you sought to understand. If these are Parmenides' hypotheses, that's what we've done. We've done the translation to the 5 and the rejection. Would you state it once more, giving any additional insights that you have? Well, we might as well keep reading, because that's where we're at. the 9th and 10th oxiding picture. He showed that it was only through negatives, that one can be brought to understand the one being beyond all predicates. He brought me to see that the dynamic. Now, we have gained a further insight into this idea because using our map, we have seen, hang on a second, while you can deny the whole that's defined against parts, if your idea of a whole is something that's not missing any of its parts, and if you define part as a part of a whole, they're interconnected, meaning you have to reject both to understand this section, that if this is whole and this is part, and we want this as the one self, then if your definition of whole is defined by parts, it's here. So you're rejecting parts and this idea of a whole. But by the way, everything in your experience and perception ever has been this kind of a whole. Meaning, if we look at this Venn diagram, we can reject parts, of course, because parts are in here. But we have to reject our use of logos that we've been using in everything we've experienced, perceived, thought up until this point. Because everything that we've experienced has been in this circle. Either our beliefs and ignorance down here, or our understanding and knowledge here. So in that way, it's only through the use of negatives of every use of logos we've got. But there is a different kind of footprints, a different kind of logos. As we've seen, let's use another Venn diagram on the board. This one here. Notice there's a model and activity, 4th and 5th hypothesis. Belief and dualism, materialism, rejection of mind. There is a model or a ousia. Remember the two things that make us evolved? Ousia, self-reflection, and language logos, which is also activity, which is also understanding. So there's understanding, and we've been learning that understanding is the activity based on all of these terms or Lego pieces, and all of these Lego pieces are experienced as a oneness because the experience of knowing is defined by the greatest whole of the greatest parts, so the greatest superlative of both together, the greatest sameness of all of the greatest differences, completely unlimited, infinite, but containing all of the limits, out of time, but containing everything that will be in time, the greatest experience of beauty, justice, goodness, etc., the greatest superlatives, meaning the experience of ousia, or the 8th ox-herding picture, mind minding mind, person roping ox as a oneness, is all of these things in its greatest form, which defines what eidos are. People talk about the Platonic ideal or the ideal Platonic form of this or that. It ain't the word form. It's eidos, which means aspect. And we've just understood why that is. If it's the greatest positives to all of them taken as a unity, therefore this single experience of oneness has to have all of these things within them. So all of the aspects of knowledge, or the 8th ox-herding picture, or the 2nd hypothesis, or divine luminosity, all of its aspects are the tools or Lego pieces or building blocks for understanding. Therefore, the more you understand, by the way, that's metaphysics. And by the way, put a story, that's true theology. Talk about whole as Aphrodite and parts as Apollo, for instance. And the greater we understand this, the greater we perfect our activity of understanding, because this is the model from which it's based. That's why dianoia, or true understanding, isn't reflecting on the physical world, it's reflecting on this. That's true philosophy, that's metaphysics. reflecting on the divine luminosity of being, as well as understanding its aspects. So the dialectic is nothing other than using all of these in an ordered structure to benefit someone by purifying their false idea of self and reality, or helping them gain insight and direct experience of the truth of self and reality through understanding. So they're also perfecting their skill and art of ousia, that's seeing it as a whole, and logos, that's recognizing and using its parts. Therefore, dialectic is the art to master for everyone who has intelligence. It's the thing that benefits. But we've seen in the 8th the anticipation of the next. Footprints, someone's gone through this. If this is the highest example of experience or predicates, where do these footprints lead? That's the significance of what we've been doing, because as we've seen, well, yes, everything you've had an experience or experienced as an adjective, all of our physical adjectives, a beautiful streamer, a beautiful puppy, are all adjectives of those nouns that are the aspects or eidos, not forms, not concepts. So too are they adjectives or eidos as nouns within mind or luminosity. 8th ox, 2nd hype, orthosis. Therefore, if that's how we've been using logos, you can't apply any of them, because that's the boundary here, and we're seeking to go beyond that boundary to the source of even divine luminosity. If that's divine luminosity, we want the sun that gives that light, the self. So in one way, Socrates is right to reject all of these, the way that we've defined them and experienced them and understood them up until this point. But because we've been learning the logos along the way, we have this lovely map, meaning there is a way of using the logos differently. Because hey, if this is the logos in ousia perfectly, or in the greatest experience, its source must have the logos and ousia in it somehow. Transcending experience, sure, but how can this be the reflection of it if the self isn't intelligible? And we've said that the functioning through that map to benefit all souls in their development is providence, and its source is the self. Then how the heck can the self benefit us intelligibly, helping us understand our dreams, our problems, our reading, if it's not understandable itself? And how can there be logos here and logos here in our physical world and in mind if it didn't come from if it's from the source? Then how can that be the logos if it doesn't have logos inherently within the source? I mean, there's a kind of logos differently. Or the section of whole that isn't touched by parts, just like ignorance are the section of parts that's not touched by whole. And if the ousia and the shallow ousia and the shallow logos, the zombie virus, the NPC script, is belief and materialism or atheism, we can understand that as, hey, what's it mean to be a believer? You accept a limit. So you are always disconnected from the whole. You can't be free. You can't be free to believe whatever you want. We will kill you, says every religious person ever. That's what it is. That's what it means. To be bound by a saving belief that limits your functioning, thinking, development. To be one of the crew. Caveman shit. Yes. Ancient Bronze Age myths people in 2025 spend their life listening to without ever learning how to read their own goddamn book. Yes, that's fucking stupid. That's where we are. Also, materialism is saying, so while belief is to only be here, the parts, this section, at war with the whole, strict dualism or materialism or atheism say there is no whole. We're all just parts in space. We can never experience anything outside our physical space and time. See, it fits the map. The definitional understanding of the cognitive functions of belief, strict dualism, materialism, or atheism, not as an opinion, but by definition, fits with this model. It's down here, the fake whole or ousia of I just know it all at once because it's in my heart, belief, and the activity from that. Therefore, there is no, if you leave belief and you haven't addressed your beliefs, you become atheist. So, well, there mustn't be a God or a whole or a source or a mind or a purpose. Down here. Equally so, knowledge is the whole or ousia, understanding is its parts, the two together is wisdom. Wisdom is this. Meaning, there has to be some kind of version of ousia and version of logos that transcends even that. And that's what Socrates might be talking about when he said, hey, the true dualism is this kind of ousia and logos transcends, isn't touched by its overflow in mind and its ignorance in belief. But it's you. It's the source. It's the true you. So while it transcends in terms of dimension and cognitive faculty, what we've been looking for in the oxiding pictures, it transcends in what it is, what you encounter, in how you perceive it in your state of mind, how it functions, how you can function through it. It's completely different. It's still a part of your development. Or returning to the source. It's a greater whole. The more holes, the better.
The primary purpose of
holes.
They're secretly turned on by. Bless you. Excuse you. Making ice cream's I'm cute. Like, I'm too pure. The more holes, the better.
Got there. The more holes, the better. Thank you, Emma.
Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck. We got there.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Disgusted in how long it took for us to get
If you don't know, now you know.
But now you know. Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke.
Stop eating monkey testicles.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
So, this is you can only use negatives, but because, we had spam, by the way.
I hate to have to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
We got some fake AI spam.
Dude, suck my dick.
Further fill the internet with spam, and the internet is all robots. Weird business, because it's like,
They're ruining the internet with all this.
You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiots.
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
He's an AI guy.
AI guy. But because we have this map, we can say, well, there is a different way of using logos. That would be just as the parts that deny or reject the whole or fight against the whole, belief. So too, there is a whole that transcends parts. So therefore, just as belief was the lesser at war with the greater, materialism, atheism, strict dualism is the lesser that rejects the greater. Understanding is the state of mind of the greater while being able to function providentially, sixth oxiding picture maybe, to the parts. The higher state of mind of luminosity is all of it together as a whole of all parts. There is another way of looking at the whole that transcends parts, still functions providentially through the gap, but itself is a whole defined by can never touch parts. Its luminosity can, its functioning through understanding can, in the gap. But it's a kind of whole different from any other whole because it can't have parts, which sounds like a different kind of beauty that we've just been looking at because we've just been reading the idea of in the text, there is an idea of beauty that Socrates experienced not as a well-ordered parts like harmony, but in his experience of music, he saw, hang on a second, this beautiful music that I was drawn to, enchanted by, I was able to capture a beauty that moved my soul, alive and present in the moment, because it was brought into being from somewhere unknown. Here we go. A beauty that I realized emerged from a structure. The structure exhibited principles of harmony. So there's our parts harmoniously organized within a structure, but emerging in a different, higher way, a beauty that transcends its parts. The parts are a precondition, not a quality. If that's the case, then we can go back to our map and say, just as there is a kind of beauty experienced in divine luminosity of the greatest whole incorporating all the parts, by the way, that would be the highest experience or paradigm or blueprints for justice, because every just society needs to provide a sameness for everyone, so we're not at war with each other, killing our environment and other human beings, but also it has to account for the greatest difference. So the greatest kind of sameness, uniting all as all human beings or selves, developing mind or mastering the ox through the logos or understanding, taming it with the rope. That's the greatest possible way we can have a sameness, but also it has to account, because we're evolving and all evolution has to have diversity, account for and maintain our difference. So if you're different, you're not murdered. Fascists, religious people, racists, sexists, shapes and color people. So the greatest account for sameness and the greatest account protection of difference would be the model of justice that we should demand from every politician. So while we're looking at the pairs of Lego pieces, Selfa terms, for our idea of understanding or oneness, the idea of goodness, which are single terms, beauty and justice, has that expression in the second hypothesis, the greatest whole of parts, the greatest same and difference, which would be the experience of justice, beauty, goodness. There is a different kind of beauty we just saw that isn't a whole of parts, but is an emergence, kind of like music, that emerges from the parts, from the limits organized harmoniously, played through time like a musician. Emerging into a greater whole. I'm not going to press the button. Yes, I will.
I'm too pure.
The more holes, the better.
Making ice cream's a good and great.
Okay, we're not going to get it. The more holes, the better. Emerging into a whole, a kind of beauty that transcends parts as an emergent whole. And we talked about certain people. Socrates talked then about meeting a beautiful woman who talked about understanding that awoken and inspired Socrates. After the musician, he went to the marketplace of ideas, the agora, and there was something very strange, a young woman whose voice rang with integrity and truth. So we talked about people who have their own well-ordered soul or parts, but the beauty that we perceive about them isn't just the ordering. We're not seeing that. We're seeing their consciousness or soul or how they function beautifully as an emergent quality from its parts. A different kind of beauty, a beauty of soul. Not physical beauty, which is the symmetry of parts and all that. No, an emergent quality of soul. Meaning, now we've got a place for all of our monads. Blackboard. Our monads. Justice. There is a kind of transcendent justice that gives its luminosity, gives birth to the justice of the whole of all parts or the same of all difference. There is a kind of higher beauty of self that gives its experience of beauty as whole and parts. So an emergent as we go up, returning to the ninth oxiding picture, or the first hypothesis, a different quality of beauty, different kind of beauty. So 2 kinds of beauty, 2 kinds of justice, 2 kinds of goodness. And we can finish, bring it all together in the, we've got the pairs of terms, the single terms, the duads, the monads, and we've got the triad term. Remember the 3 fundamental forces of the soul. We seek our goodness. That's this basketball team with its captain, goodness, and its members under here. We reason by bringing things together with understanding into a oneness. So oneness is the captain, and these are the pairs of players on the basketball team. But we also outwardly seek truth. So those are the 3 forces of the soul that Socrates talks about. That's a triad. What's triad? What's truth? Lesser, greater, ultimate. Think about something you say is true. Hey, my car is parked outside. The lesser, your speech, has to reflect the greater. The model that your speech is a copy of or is supposed to be a representation of. But for you to be able to judge whether or not that's true, you have to yourself use the principle or concept or idea of truth to judge whether or not that was a true statement. Lesser, greater, ultimate. And we also talked about how we, the lesser, relate to Socrates, the greater, to become like Diotima, the ultimate. The triad, the mean analogy, which is interesting because Jesus just said, hang on a second, is that mean analogy the gap? So is it through the gap that we as souls, the lesser, through the gap, through the intelligibility of the logos and dialectic and dreams, can become like the source? Therefore, the third hypothesis or understanding, or the logos, dialectic, dreams, the rope and the whip, becomes the mean analogy for us to reach our goal. It's the method, mean analogy, which is lesser, greater, ultimate. We, the lesser, as the students, participate in the logos, the greater, to reach the source, the ultimate. So a necessary triad of terms for truth. Why are we talking about that now? Because we said, hang on a second, there's a lesser version of beauty, the appearance of beauty of the indoctrinators into belief. Our pastor, parents, clergy, president, fucking shit. Pretend to be beautiful, pretend to be just. Hey, that woman that was murdered, shot in the face by some cowardly fuck in a mask with a gun, was actually just. That was just because he was scared by this suburban woman in a car with soft toys and a dog after dropping her kids at school. Fucking bullshit. A lesser or false imitation of that's belief, that's religion, that's the right wing, that's parents when they pretend to be knowing and shut down children from their own self goals and development. That's the nature of human ignorance. Human ignorance can therefore be represented simply as the lesser, or shadow as Socrates put it, imitation or cosplay of these monads. So there's the 2 basketball teams, which can be understood with the 3rd basketball team taking the lesser version at war with the child's development or your own development. So you accept a limit to be part, different from yourself, unlike your higher states of mind, because of a lesser imitation of these monads. Right? So then the next stage of development, seeking the ox, catching the ox, taming the ox, riding the ox, sitting at home or transcending the ox with the ox asleep with your rope in the shed, in the hut, and even the direct unity of ox, rope, and man. Hey, welcome, Corporal. Is the greater from this basketball team or set of Lego pieces for all understanding, perception, and existence. So notice this is why philosophy has nothing to do with belief. We've understood belief as the lesser imitation of these to take the lesser of the pairs at war with the greater. But notice, we're not pointing to any person. These are always true. Every single person you've ever met uses these building blocks of perception for anything that they've perceived, experienced, or understood. It's just definitional. You can't fight a war about this. You can't destroy a leader to make it untrue. You can't blow up a planet for profit to change this. It's just truth. We can simply, clearly define the truth that's able to be perceived by anyone who's got the open-mindedness, courage, curiosity to see. All human problems is just this term. Look, all we're doing is using Lego pieces. There are 3 basketball teams. 3s, 1s, and pairs. Can we take a moment out for dream analysis of mine? We can talk about one dream that I had in a cult run by Noam Chomsky. Okay, dream analysis takes about half an hour to an hour to go through. You need to have the dream recorded as soon as you wake up. You need to have a transcript of the dream recording. You need to have 2 copies, one for you and one for the other person. So that's the basic practical things needed for dream analysis. So if it's an old dream, better to take the one you had last night. Or if you didn't record it into audio as soon as you wake up, better to take tonight's dream. Yeah, hard evidence. It's not interpretation. Logos, like we're saying, we are following the logos of reality. So too do you need to get the words as accurate as you can from your dreams. And here's another exercise you can do. Record it into audio as soon as you wake up. Then later on in the day, write it out from memory. Then transcribe the audio. There are some programs which help you, like I use TurboScribe. It's really handy. Now compare the difference and you'll see how much your beliefs change even after a few hours. But not just change, you can see for yourself that your beliefs will change, your memory will change to suit the very beliefs that you are seeking to overcome through dream analysis. Which is interesting, which is like, and if you want to do dream analysis, you can go through the dream analysis and then look at your later on in the day transcription and you might gain some insight. Holy crap, the dream was telling me about this projection or interpretation from my own belief, tied to my false identity with self, that manifested in how I misremembered the dream. It's almost as though my problems have a self-protecting mechanism, preventing me from remembering the things I need to remember, or seeing the things I need to see. That's the blind spot. That's interpretation. Projecting what isn't there into your dream, and blind spots leaving out what is. That's it. That's the nature of our ignorance. To add what isn't there, or to leave out what is. And you'll see that yourself, maybe, in this little activity. But I am glad you're curious, and I am glad that you're asking about it. Now, there are some other preconditions that need to be made. You need to have at least basic understanding of, a little bit of an understanding of midwifery, because dreams are usually about how to free yourself from your problems or ignorance. But you have to recognize that in sacrificing your problems, you have to sacrifice your lesser idea of justice, beauty, goodness, love. You have to sacrifice your false images of your loved ones. And for a lot of people, that's too much. But I love my mummy and daddy, and they were saints, and they could never do anything wrong. And I love Jeepers, he's in my heart. So Socrates talks about this in the Alcibiades. He says, look, to a young Alcibiades, for you to go through this process of removing your problems and freeing yourself up to know the nature of self and reality, your purpose, your destiny, you can't be like a young mother who has given birth to a sick child that needs to be aborted. Because it's her first child. She'll fight tooth and nail. No, it's my only child and it's my first child. And you can't be like that with your first beliefs about justice, beauty, goodness, reality, love. You can't be that. You can't be precious about those things. Why? because they are the lesser, using the triad team, shadow or imitation of these monads, using the monad team, oneness team, that causes you to, in the pair team, be a part or be limited or be stuck, perpetual motion, always in time, at war with your experiencing of yourself as the same, as the whole, reach your goal, to be free, to experience eternity. That's why it's a block. And notice, we've understood not just your problems, but every human problem. And we've done it definitionally by using the self-logos terms, the terms that are always true. We experience all of these terms as adjectives in our physical world, but we can experience them as nouns in the experience of the eighth oxiding picture, the second hypothesis, divine luminosity, and we can understand the direct experience of these things as nouns that are the cause of the adjectives by using the same words. It's the greater, or if that's lesser is false, our false beliefs, our false ideas of love that made our parents believable. If the greater is the truth, experiencing the truth of these things, the ultimate is the principle of true itself. So we can verify this. As you free yourself from what's false, you allow yourself to be open and receptive to the truth. And by the way, the method of dream analysis is the dialectic, and the dialectic is the same method of removing what's false as it is to finding what's true. So you're learning the skill of understanding the dialectic, the ropes needed to tame the ox, but also it's the flute you play once you're riding the ox that allows you, once free of your problems, to apply that dialectic understanding and dream analysis to reach the greater experience, the greater or the truth of justice, beauty, goodness, benefit, providence, excellence, reality, love, oneness, truth. That's the eighth oxiding picture. And we can again use so it's the greater basketball player on this team applied to all of the players on that team, and we can understand it with our understanding team by saying it's the ultimate. Well, understanding is to have this as a state of mind to facilitate the dream analysis. So the state of mind of the whole to help somebody with their parts, with their problems, with their blocks, their differences, but preparing you for the greater experience of those, which is both of these terms together. Ultimately, that's the eighth oxiding picture, or your mind minding mind, or the second hypothesis that we've understood metaphorically through the eighth oxiding picture and definitionally with these terms of the logos. And you can communicate that step by step using the second hypothesis of Parmenides. So we've got knowledge correlating to the second hypothesis of Parmenides. But I can just tell you straight off the cuff from what I remember. I can give you overall synopsis if what I think of my dream so far is that what we're striving for, the father figure to tell us what to do. That's another important thing about dream analysis. So what you'll find if you become familiar, like if you read, we have on this channel, we have another series where we're reading the Orange Sutra. So if you were reading the Orange Sutra along with us, and I think you've been here for long enough that you've probably listened to a few of our readings of the Orange Sutra, which is the philosophical midwifery book, you might have come across the part where it talks about the fact that as you're doing midwifery or dream analysis, your first interpretation of your problem, or that's midwifery, your first interpretation of your dream, it's good to write down at the beginning. What do you think your dream meant? What do you think your problem is? So midwifery is about your problems. You don't necessarily need a dream. You have to recognize a problem that repeats in your life, blocking you from your personally meaningful goals. A personally meaningful goal has to be something that is intelligible. So music could be one, because as we've seen with Socrates, he recognized that there is a harmony and intelligibility behind music, but ultimately what we've been reading, because that's the greater. As Socrates says, I dimly perceived that there was, that there must be two intelligent forces, one glimpsed through music and another more profound waiting to be discovered. That's why we read these books, including the book about midwifery, the Orange Sutra, and your dreams. So your dreams, the midwifery book, and these logos books that we read on this channel. Is the logos has a more higher expression of the logos than music, or anything that you're studying that has a understandability. So if you've been doing that and you notice a kind of problem that keeps coming up cyclically when you approach your meaningful goal or high states, then you can do midwifery on that. And the first thing that a dialectician or midwife would ask was, what do you think your problem is? And you write it down. Then you put it aside. Or same thing for dream analysis. What do you think your dream means? You write it down, you put it aside. When you go through the activity of midwifery or dream analysis, and you gain an insight about your problem that your everyday life problem or your dream problem was a message about, then if the person, your interlocutor, or the pregnant party, if they are mature enough and they have enough of an understanding of the method, then you can reflect on their first interpretation. And they have to be kind of mature, because it's not an insult. You're not making fun of them. But if they're mature and they have enough understanding, then they could see that their first interpretation was another expression of the very problem the dream or the problem was a message about. It was reflected in their own interpretation of their problem. That's why when people say, I don't need to do midwifery, I know what my problem is, then it's always the same answer. No, you don't. If you knew, you wouldn't have your problem. In fact, the thing that you think your problem is likely an expression of that very problem. Like, what do all the right-wingers and fascists say? I know my problem, it's the immigrants. No, not only is it not your problem, fascist, your projection of your problems onto the most poor and vulnerable people is an example of your real fucking problem, you fascist. To Donald Trump, to MAGA, to the Nazis, to the KKK, ICE, Gestapo, to the Israelis murdering Palestinians. It's always the same. Our problem is Palestinians aren't being good enough victims. Now, easy to see with those idiots to whom we say,
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
I'm so disgusted. But it's also a universal principle. And the difference is, we ain't killing or genociding or graping or putting in concentration camps people with a problem like they do. Who's Sabula? We are specifically looking for when we miss the mark, because that's what we're here for. We're supposed to be making mistakes. If you're... I don't want to Google right now. You could just tell me. We're supposed to be seeking our most meaningful goals in order to make mistakes, so that those mistakes become objects of reflection, because when we reflect on it, the very logos of those problems and our reflection, the logos, the words we use, are messages to our soul about our false image of self that caused our very reincarnation in the first place. Otherwise, we'd be, phew. Oh, Trump heckler. Oh, okay, good. Great. I'll look him up later then. Yeah, so very easy for us as more insightful, reflective people to see in the least reflective people, the most bound by personal beliefs, right-wingers, fascists, Trumpers, religious folk. But it's still a principle we have ourselves. And the difference is, we have fun with it. What do you think your dream is? Oh, it's a dream about getting eaten by a dragon. Probably telling me that I'm eating too much meat in my diet. Interesting. Let's have a look at the dream. And then you see what it was really about, and you might gain a second level of insight by seeing how your first interpretation reflected your problem. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
But there is a lot of integrity that goes into the process. It's not like astrology where you can just do it at a party. Now, you can have an environment, no doubt I have daddy issues, but not like the girls I dated. Oh my goodness. So, yes, well, we all have parental figures that become our first model of these monads. Our first model for us to believe our parents when we were stuck and dependent in those situations. We had to believe, where is our, over here. They were a lesser shadow of what we considered to be beautiful, just, and goodness. Therefore, anyone who hasn't awoken to their purpose to master these words, just the words on these 3 basketball teams, that's it, that reflect the 3 forces of your soul. Don't you want your goodness in you? Isn't that your belly? Don't you want to be filled with good sandwiches? Hey, when you go out and do things, do you want a real girlfriend or an AI girlfriend? Do you want to be scammed by some capitalist, or do you want the true thing? In other words, do you want to be known for what you truly achieve? Do you outwardly seek truth? And when you understand something, don't you want to bring it into a oneness? Put a name on it? I know that's a chicken. I've understood it. Sandwich is to get it in your belly. Do you need to understand how to achieve that goal to seek it? So all we're doing is always using these 3 basketball teams. I knocked my computer, so I have to reset my audio. Just a sec. Oh my fuck.
You just blow in from Stupid Town?
I blew in from Stupid Town. Humans' first question to AI. Exactly. Can I fucking... Oh my god.
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
And I'm sad for you. So, similarly, human problems is a lesser imitation or false imitation of these ideas of goodness. You love my sound bites. Well, to you I say...
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful. And he's handsome. I said it.
Yeah, I said it. You're handsome for thinking that. Which cause us to be stuck in a part, stuck limited, stuck in all of these lesser versions of this basketball team at war with the greater. Equally so, the experience of that we are seeking once we free ourselves by dream analysis and midwifery is freedom from the lesser or the false, to be free to then apply that same method to seeking the truth, which is the greater. Remember, false, truth, and true. The greater, the greatest experience of beauty, justice, which is defined by the greatest whole of the greatest parts. But as we're seeing, we move through that luminosity to the principle of trueness itself. For us to be able to participate in lesser, greater, or copy and model, there has to be a principle of one, or truth, or good. The principle, for there to be oneness, there has to be a principle of one. For there to be goodness, there has to be a principle of good. For that there to be trueness, there has to be a principle of truth. That's the ultimate. And we've been talking about that as not a beauty of the whole of all parts, like a physical, beautiful body, all of the parts symmetrical in the right order, but more like the beauty of a soul or a personality or a way of functioning that someone has, like the beautiful girl that Socrates met in the Agora. That is a, what's the word? Emergent principle. It emerges. It's not the parts, but when, like our consciousness, once all your physical parts are together, it emerges a higher transcendent level we call consciousness, which ain't physical. So too with beauty. So the ultimate beauty, justice that we experience as a kind of whole that transcends parts. So we can use these language so long as we use it in a different way. Everything we've seen as everything that we've experienced is in the realm of experience, or the thing itself in its experience or existence is everything in this purple circle, because that's the experience or existing. So everything that we've experienced, everything that exists is within there, but we want to go beyond our greatest experience, the eighth ox-herding picture, to the thing itself, to the ultimate. Shine on forever, shine on benevolent sun, shine on upon the broken shine until the two become one. What song is that? That's funny, I was researching Perfect Circle today. Do you know Perfect Circle has the singer from Tool, guitarist from Smashing Pumpkins, has the guitar tech from 9 Inch Nails, has the drummer who does session work from 9 Inch Nails. What else? Endeavo. Jambi. Oh, interesting. So it's like a super group. Imagine 9 Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, and Tool coming together and playing lovely songs. I like Perfect Circle. Speaking of circles, so that's how we can understand what Socrates is saying by every kind of label we've got so far, in that it has been an experience of the physical world or mind, is denied of the ultimate because it's this part of the Venn diagram we're after. Progressive industrial metal is my gospel. I've been meaning to learn more Tool songs. I'll let you know when I have some, and then you can jump into my music stream and we can play some Tool. And some Perfect Circle. The only 9 Inch Nails song I can play is Hurt. It's a kind of, I play halfway between 9 Inch Nails and who's the guy? The country guy? Does a cover of Hurt? Where's my guitar? Yeah. I'll talk about it on my music stream. So, the ultimate is what we're after. So, we've just using these 3 basketball teams, not opinion. This is going to be true forever, for any universe, for any multiverse. We've understood the nature of problems by applying this to that, to this, by drawing a line here. We've understood the nature of enlightenment experiences, this to that, by taking these together, and the nature of the highest, our purpose, our final cause, or the source, taking this applied to that, to this over here, that transcends and providentially functions towards the lesser. So the opposite of belief. Belief being therefore the lesser, or the false, defined by the lesser version of these pairs at war with the greater, when the ultimate is the highest expression of this, state of this, while being able to function through the dialectic or understanding most providentially, caring intelligently towards the other side. So, the nature of human problems, the nature of our greatest experience, and the nature of our purpose or our highest state. Defined just with these themes. Recently, I've been looking up things on the Kabbalah and how it's a projection of the human mind that might be interpreted through different ways through Jewish mysticism or occultism. Well, that's actually come up in the book that we've been reading. So while we've just given a handy synopsis of all human problems, human enlightenment, and our purpose to know the self, well, that's fun and great, and we can benefit from it. Also, part of our job is to share it with other human beings who are stuck in their problems and want their happiness, and if they're awake to it, to know the true nature of themselves. As much as humans are at war with this, we all seek to understand and know ourselves. But the difficulty with sharing it is we are fiercely loyal to our lesser. That's why I said to you, you have to have some familiarity with midwifery to do dream analysis, because when you realize that the cause of your problems, or one of the causes to your problems, was believing certain parental figures that appeared beautiful and they were actually not, you will fight back. Fuck you, my mum was a saint, how dare you, that kind of stuff. That's why yo mama jokes are so easy. It's built into our ignorance. So we have to look at the ways in which when we share truth with people, they respond to it. And so far we have 8 kinds of responses to truth from the text. We have, let's get rid of this over here, do it in a little box. We have, and one of them is the Kabbalah, that's why we're talking about it. If you reject the new and keep the old, the most ignorant, that's the first kind or class of response or interpretation to new truth. You have Paul claiming to speak for the new while actually remaining loyal to his old ignorance. Most modern Christians quote Paul. You can take a piece of the new and put it as a patch on the coat of your old traditions. That's the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah, someone from the Sephardic religious traditions came across the Parmenides, as we are learning here, and instead of doing what we're doing, understanding it and mastering it, riding the bull, they took it as a piece, added it to their religion, and created the Kabbalah. You're taking a little piece of the new, keeping your old ignorance and traditions, and just putting a little patch on that coat. That's the Kabbalah. You have Mark, number 4, who saw what Paul is doing and rejects that. So the rejecter of the rejecter, as Paul rejected Jesus' teaching about understanding and states of mind. To say, oh no, don't do that, just have belief, bro. Mark rejects that, tells the story of Jesus' actual teachings about understanding and the dangers of not doing midwifery on your beliefs. You have the supporter of the rejecter, John, who licked Paul's boots. Now, the first 2 sentences in the Gospel of John are fine. You have the 6th, people who advance certain parts but ignore others, like Plato, Proclus, Plotinus. They advance the dialectic to truth, but they leave out the dialectic of applied to removing what's false. They leave out midwifery. And they don't understand how to incorporate both in dream analysis. So yes for the dialectic on truth, no for midwifery, and no for dream analysis. That's number 6. We can't blame them. We killed, see, Plato was the head teacher, and these other teachers followed in the academy, and we killed Socrates when Plato was only in his 20s, before he was able to go through midwifery and master midwifery, ride that ox. So we don't blame them, they're doing their best, but they're not quite there. There are those like Dionysius who tried to appeared loyal to the old while creating an alternative to the literal reading of those old core beliefs. So while Paul is a wolf in sheep's clothing, you could call Dionysius a lion in wolf's clothing. Yes, oh yes, let's teach about hierarchical beliefs and oppression so we can get all the money and play out our ignorance on other people. By the way, here's some logos for you. Ooh. So if you were a Christian and you wanted to stay within your tradition for a while, do Dionysius. By the way, all Christian theology is based on Dionysius. He's quoted like 1,000 times by Thomas Aquinas, and all other Christian theologians follow Thomas Aquinas. So, interesting tidbit there. There are those who have been fooled by the lion, who may add to the new, but also try to synthesize the old and new together. That's Ficino. So a wolf and lion both sides are. He doesn't realize that Dionysius wasn't actually religious. He was trying to keep some of the logos alive, seeing as these fuckers from Christianity were murdering philosophers, burning libraries, bringing in the Dark Ages, banning understanding. You couldn't even have a book to read. You'd be burnt. So he realized that was happening, and he pretended to be one of them to sneak in philosophy. Ficino didn't realize that and thought, oh gee, there seems to be an intelligibility within religion so long as I only pay attention to Dionysius. Therefore, maybe there is an equivalent to the ox-herding pictures that you get through the development of understanding and purification of beliefs, philosophy, and magic into your brain through faith. So Ficini is number 8, someone who's been tricked. So far, those are the 8 kinds of interpretations of new truth that we have from the book. We need to pay attention to these because we want to do our best to share that brief synopsis of how we can understand by definition always, doesn't matter if you're a Jew, Christian, alien, human, a billion light years away, or a billion years into the future. This map here on the board will define the nature of your problems, your excellence, and your ultimate. But again, our problems will fight back, the counterattack. That's why for every single ox-herding picture, it talks about 2 things. What you experience and the negatives, or the counterattack, or the fight back. In fact, the 4th ox-herding picture seems to be entirely a counterattack. The cult of Dionysius lives through Hollywood. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, so, sorry, I might have misspoke. Not Dionysius the goddess, Dionysius the Areopagite, the guy who pretended to be Paul's friend and was around at the crucifixion of Jesus when he wasn't. He was a student at the academy in around 500 AD when the Dark Ages were beginning, because Emperor Fuckface McGee decided to kill everyone who was doing understanding and institute Christianity. No, they sound the same. Dionysius the goddess of the harvest and springtime. One of the 12 gods that we have been looking at in the book. But pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite I'm talking about here. Maybe I'm not even saying it right. Dionysius. Maybe it's the same word. Okay, so good points and questions. Hooray.
I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome too. So, there's a beauty that emerged from a structure. That's the key point. Giving us a different kind of beauty that's not a whole of all parts like the greater or the 8th ox, but a higher kind of beauty, its source. There's some ideals behind what I last said. Yes, good point. Every logos that we share is either an expression of some higher insight we're to give birth to in our upward movement or anagogic movement through the ox-herding pictures, or an expression of a problem. That's right. Even when you said, "God damn my ignorant ass." Why ignorant? Why not stupid? See, there's a clue there. Who uses the term ignorant in your family? Why ass? Who does that sound like? my goddamn. Every bit of that's a clue. How did it feel when you said that to yourself? Did it seem true? It wasn't true, but did it feel true? Maybe that's a reflection of it felt true, your false model of what it means to be a knower or believer, and the activity. So the negative logos, ignorant ass, god damn it, that's language, and your knowing of the state of mind you were in. So that's what we look for as clues. Also in dreams, what was the state of mind you were in? What was the logos that you used? Usia and logos. See? It's always a clue. It's always fun. So win, win, win.
Win, 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 win.
We've lost linguistic intent throughout generations. Interpreting shit. Ignorant is just not knowing. So the definition of ignorance we've been using is, while the true idea of wisdom is the ousia, knowing yourself completely, the model of knowing, divine luminosity, the second hypothesis of Parmenides, or the eighth oxherding picture, along with, so that's the ousia, turning around and knowing yourself, along with the logos, understanding the, gnosis, exactly, understanding the intelligibility of that, so the whole and the parts, that the parts are understanding, that's wisdom. So all of these things that we've been using, all of these building blocks, that's what we use in understanding. Artfully, to use them artfully, the dialectic. To experience all of these terms all at once, the greatest whole of the greatest parts, same and difference together, the greatest positives, the greatest, notice greater, that's knowledge. A oneness, frankly, I find unattainable. Yeah, of course you do, otherwise you'd be there. Your job is to find what you, okay, so that's wisdom, but you have a belief that opposes that. So, while our natural state of mind is mind itself, and our natural activity is the functioning of that, knowing and understanding, the two together is wisdom. It's art as a dialectic. The reason why we're not there right now is we have an imitation. Having been raised in a family, some parent appeared to be knowing, and you got your beliefs from them. So a shadow of the knowingness or the model belief, and a shadow of the logos, words that say, I can't attain it. I am a small bean. I am a bad noodle. Maybe enlightenment for Socrates or Buddha, not for me, because I'm shit. I am an ignorant ass. It's not true. Absolutely not. It would be an unjust world if you were just here to suffer without the possibility of learning. And escaping not only your problems from this learning, but also the chains of problems and the prison of reincarnation. It's not true, but it feels true. Because it feels true because it aligns with your false beliefs. Quit driving my soul, damn it. Yes. Well, that's why we're here. Our soul falls into a family that we will definitely get a belief that reflects your false belief about mind and self. Because if you didn't have a false belief, you wouldn't have left the divine luminosity. And if you had understanding as well, you could move through that luminosity to the next stages of evolution, the self and beyond. Socrates says, this is where I am. Meet me and other humans who've completed their work, who are fellow guides and adventurers on a greater journey. So that's what we're here for. So don't beat yourself up that you have a false belief about self and reality and a false activity, language, or a choice of things you do in the day that shoot you down. Say you can't do what we're doing here. You can't master this text we're reading. You can't master the oxherding pictures like we've been doing. You can't learn to understand your dreams. Any of that bullshit. Don't beat yourself up because you've been beating yourself up. That's a lose-lose. But recognize you're here for a reason to take that negative logos and that negative state of mind as clues That's the fourth ox-herding picture, doing midwifery and dream analysis to remove your false beliefs. So it's that false model and false activity that we see as ignorance. So ignorance isn't neutral. Ignorance isn't not having wisdom. Ignorance is to believe something is wisdom that ain't. Belief. Ain't no MAGA, right-winger, religious person open and curious and realizing they don't know. All of those sick people with the sickness of the pathologos think they know. I know what happens when you die. It's heaven or hell. I know what the cause of my problem is. It's immigrants. I know that whatever. They all think they know. That's ignorance. That's why they're fascistic and they can't learn, because to benefit, you need actual knowing and understanding. That's why cruelty is the point. So if you're a believer, right-winger, fascist, religious person, MAGA, and you want to pretend to be a knower, you can't actually benefit because that requires knowing and understanding. You can't believe your way into fixing a computer. You can't believe your way into curing a sick puppy. You need understanding and knowing. But what can believers do as a surrogate? Shoot people in the fucking face. Genocide people in Palestine. Invade other countries. Torture children. That's why cruelty is the point for the right-wing, religious, and anyone stuck in belief as a cognitive function. It's a surrogate for actual wisdom. That's the nature of ignorance. To think you know something you don't, and if you play out that ignorance and you're not engaged in what we're doing here, mastering the hypotheses and the ox-herding pictures through the texts that we're reading, that are bangers anyway, then you are going to spend your life looking for an opportunity to play out your cosplay of wisdom, ignorance, on other people. Be that your employees, the Palestinian people, the most poor and vulnerable in your society wearing an ice fucking mask, or your own children. It has to exist as a stage of development for us to learn, but the point is, don't give gun to baby. Yes, if babies have guns, they will shoot each other. That's not a problem with babies or a early stage of development. It's a problem with the parents giving guns to babies. Therefore, if all spiritual leaders and leaders that refer to society, planet, or soul, so politicians, spiritual leaders, anyone who has power in our society, should be, just like every doctor has to have a knowing of the model of the healthy body and an understanding of its parts to use that to benefit the patient, so too, only those who are at the 8th ox-herding picture should be politicians and spiritual leaders. Not because they benefit ever, but because they benefit the souls and the society they have leadership over. So it's not a problem that 40% of our population will always side with their pathologos, will always side with the Nazis who will end up killing them. MAGA will side with Trump or someone like him who will hurt them, take away their money, take away their healthcare, put their children in prison camps. It's not a problem of them being ignorant, it's a problem that we have given the gun to baby. Only when we have an understanding of what we're doing here and demand actual wisdom from leaders, but they're not going to benefit. So we have to not only understand this, but make a good reasoned case. I know you won't want to do this, but here is the reasons why you should. And I know one of the reasons why you won't want to is because ignorance functions. Belief ain't neutral. Religion isn't just some happy neutral idea. No, it's sadistic. It functions as child abuse. It functions as genocide against the Palestinians. It functions as KKK Nazis setting up concentration camps in America. It's always hostile. Meaning the people who have gone through the process of going through the ox-herding pictures, midwifery and dream analysis to remove their ignorance, and have reached at least the 6th, 7th, or 8th ox-herding picture, they will be targets for the ignorant fucks in our world. So we have to make the case that please help us by ruling us. And part of our sales pitch to these people is we understand that we will hate you, or 40% of our population will hate you. We promise never to act on that. And we promise to have societal structures so that the most ignorant fucks will never ever get guns or have power over any other people so that they can fight against you because you're helping them. Just like if you go into a doctor's office, the moment a patient starts saying, no, I'm better than the doctor and I should get all the drugs, out, fuck off. The doctor has the knowing and understanding and can function with that to benefit you. That's why you're here, to benefit from the wisdom of the doctor. The moment you start being belligerent or attacking doctors, like the fucking MAGA, like these sick fucks who are going on a crusade against the literal medical institution, how fucking stupid is that? No. We will never ever have a fascist party as an option for people to pick, because they will fuck everything up. We will never have an option to shoot your doctor, as MAGA does, or blow up a abortion clinic or some of that bullshit. Never, ever, ever. Has to be our sales pitch if we want to benefit and live in a good world and save our species or planet from destruction. Necessarily. Not just our planet, any species who has evolved the capacity for reflection and understanding. So that's the nature of ignorance. That's the nature of wisdom. Also, there is a wisdom beyond this wisdom, a kind of ousia and logos that is even its source, giving us those three stages in that basketball team: lesser, greater, ultimate. The world of physical appearances becoming an ignorance, the world of mind, reality, or being, and the ultimate, the self. And that's where we are in the ninth oxherding picture. We've gone through the eighth, and now the ninth is either the ousia or the activity of self. We can also nail it down with these basic three sets of terms based on oneness, goodness, and truth. By the way, if this middle section here is oneness, goodness, or truth of reality, you could use the one to define the self up here. The one self, the true self, or the good self. And what Socrates is saying is Parmenides taught him that all of the ways of using the logos up until now have to be denied. But what we are saying is, there's another way of using the logos. If you define whole as this, a whole of all parts, if this bottom circle is parts, this is the part circle, and this is the whole circle, everything in experience has either been a part or a whole of parts, then that whole will not apply to the ultimate. So you have to reject this whole. But if you are defining whole as that which transcends parts, an emergent whole, or a transcendent, just as Socrates did here when he says, we just read, Parmenides showed him that the one or the other don't touch each other, and that's why we have the mean term of wisdom or knowing and understanding through the gap, providence. They don't touch each other because the kind of one of the one self of the first hypothesis, the one that can also be said of the self, is here. Literally, it's defined by the section of whole that is not touched by part. So in one sense, yes, you can only understand this in negatives because everything in existence you are negating because it transcends. Not negating in terms of nihilism, but with the word transcendent. So as we follow the Logos, there is a one beyond all predicates. And that's what we're touching now in the 9th oxiding picture. Let's bring it up. Drop a sound on me.
My head is quite large and filled with
And
secrets.
full of secrets.
Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke.
You just attacked my person.
What?
You just harmed my body.
I'm apologize for harming your body.
Kant would say some fucking bullshit.
Bullshit. Okay. So, returning to the source. From the very beginning, there's not a speck of dust to mar the intrinsic purity. It's not touched by the many. It's not touched by the parts. Not a speck of dust can touch that kind of a whole. That's the ultimate kind of beauty and justice. Oh, and by the way, Corporal, you mentioned your girlfriend's having daddy issues. We could also understand that here as well. Because if your model of beauty, goodness, love, benefit, all of the monads within the goodness basketball team is defined by the lesser imitation, your parental figures or parental surrogates, then you're going to be attracted to someone who looks like that model of beauty, that model of reality, someone real and beautiful, based on your model. Why most people end up in relationships with people who are imitations of their parental figures or daddy issues. And they play out the inherent problems or pathologos drama in their relationships, just as they do in their dreams, fantasies, tangents, distractions. It's all the same thing. So the problems of your relationships is nothing other than a message about the lesser ousia and logos of these monads that keep you stuck in the lesser of these pairs at war with your benefit or whole. Yeah, that's relationships. That's why look for someone with a good heart and a good head. Good head to play this game and good heart to want to. And this would be, therefore, the ideal kind of relationship. Using the model of the ideal relationship, the way the self, the ultimate, functions through intelligence and understanding to benefit the parts. So our goal being the state of mind of the whole, benefiting the parts, which is the state of being or functioning of understanding. But we've said there's two kinds of wholes, so it can be knowing the whole of knowledge, or it can be this transcendent whole. Either way, your state of mind is the whole, and your functioning is beneficially to the parts. That's providence, that's artfulness. Two kinds of dialectician. One with the whole of the 8th oxiding picture, and maybe one with the whole of the 9th. Our ideal states of functioning and being, which is also the model for our ideal relationships. As Diotima taught Socrates, love and logos. It's one of those and you're in trouble. So, from the beginning, not a speck of dust can touch that kind of transcendent or emergent, if you're going back up, whole. He observes the waxing and waning of life. Ooh, from a greater perspective of the whole. He can see the parts. He can see the motion. People struggling with their limits or problems in time. See? He's in the whole. Observing. Interesting. What did we say the functioning would be? Well, if understanding was the state of mind of the whole of all parts, so the whole as a state of mind, functioning providentially through the logos dialectic, helping people, aliens, any galaxy, any time, any species, any dimension. Doesn't seem to be in the 9th. We're not functioning, we're observing. Oh, a transcendent kind of whole, better than the 8th. but not yet functioning. Isn't that interesting? So what are we leaving understanding behind? We're leaving it in the sixth oxiding picture? Playing the flute, doing the dialectic, doing dream analysis. We're leaving it behind? Here's a question for us. So watching, observing, unassertively watching their waxing and waning of life in the world, while yourself abiding unassertively in a state of unshakable serenity. So we do have the model. We got the model right, it seems, on the board. You're still the whole. In your unshakable, so you're not affected by the time or the motion or the parts. Unshakable serenity. So we've got that state of mind over here. But what are we missing? This waxing and waning is no phantom or illusion because it's a manifestation of the source. There has to be whole parts in its reflection into the physical world for souls to develop, for consciousness to develop and return to the source. Then why is there a need to strive for anything if you're at the source? The waters are blue and the mountains are green. Alone with himself, he observes things endlessly changing. Lots of observe. He observes, repeated. He has returned to the... Let's read this top one. Too many steps have been taken in returning to the root and source. I better to have been born deaf and blind from the beginning. Why go through all that process just to return to the source? You might as well be deaf and blind in the ninth. In other words, no significance for having learnt the process of taming and mastering the ox, singing the songs. Dwelling in one's true abode. Okay, you're in the right place. Unconcerned with and without. You're not fussed. That seems to be right. But the river flows tranquilly on and the flowers are red. What does that mean? Remember, the last line is the anticipation of the next. You're chill. You're at the source. You're back where you started. But what's happening over there in the river? Still flowing. And it's doing what they do. Rivers flow and flowers are red. But so what? How can that be the anticipation of the next stage? He has returned to the origin, come back to the source. But his steps have been taken in vain. Why? Why vain? Why master the dialectic? If that's the meaning of life, if that's our highest functioning and the kind of learning and nurture we can do, because that's how we follow the logos and make use of ousia and logos, the capacities of intelligence. Why do that? Seems to be in vain. It is as though he were now blind and deaf. Why? The first one says, I would rather have been born blind and deaf to pick up all my pathologos along the way, only to remove them. So many steps. How many lifetimes? How much struggle? How many episodes of this? Although this is fun because we have fun sound drops.
Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck.
Brain rot escalate.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
For sustenance. And we know that because...
This guy had to admit that the people in his life...
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Full of secrets. Our heads are full of secrets and quite large.
Cool as a cuke.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Why go through this? So two ways. I might as well have not picked up all this ignorance from the beginning, blind and deaf, but this poem says, it's as though he were now blind and deaf. What's he not seeing? He's not seeing somehow the streams meandering on of themselves and their red flowers naturally blooming red. Why is he not seeing that? Because he's in his hut, hankers for nothing outside. Therefore, how can we make sense of the last line being not of this one, but of the next? Outside is where the flowers blooming and the streams streaming are. Streamers streaming.
You just attacked my person. You just harmed my body.
Fuck.
Oh, fuck. Sorry about that. Fuck. In other words, what makes them blind and deaf to anything outside? He may have returned to the source, the first hypothesis of Parmenides. But why go through all this learning? This going through this movement from the lesser of these to that, to the greater of these of that, only to return to the source or the ultimate of these of that. What's the purpose of all these other logos? All these words, all this learning? What's the process of removing our beliefs and our rejection of mind or ignorance in the lesser, the parts, different from the whole? All of these ox-herding pictures and stages of development of enlightenment, of mind, through knowing and understanding, wisdom. What's the purpose of that? The process of doing that, as Socrates laid out, was the dialectic from Parmenides. What's the process of mastering language and reflection? The art of mind. Now that we've gone to the source. Another way of asking that similar question is, so that's the why not just stay blind and deaf from the start, is now, what are you doing? You might as well be blind and deaf because you're just sitting in your hut. What's the purpose of learning all that art? Or that single art with mastery? If you can see better than anyone the way the river flows, if you can see how flowers blossom and what they're blossoming into, their hyparxis, their excellence, if you can see the map of development of all things, why are you sitting in your house alone? Ooh, that one hurts. As a struggling musician, that one hurts a bit. In a good way, in a meaningful way. That's the question we can take with us. All of the things we've been learning about today, understanding the nature of problems, enlightenment, and our higher state of enlightenment or our purpose. Understanding the ways human beings respond to new truth so we can navigate it artfully. We've got 8 on the board already. Understanding what's involved to participate in the greatest human activity, like Corporal Fly has been doing today. What does it take for me to participate in conversation with my guru, my dream maker? The greatest activity. What would it take for me to master being a dream analysis dialectician myself, our greatest functioning? Or to use the causes that we've got on the board, what would it take to be the ideal receptive material cause? Like bricks, to building a house, you have to have material. What would it take for me to participate in the greatest activity or the mean cause? What happens to bricks? They get builded on. There has to be an activity of building. What's the greatest functioning we can do while we're human beings? Who does the building with the bricks? The builders. What would be the greatest paradigm for our greatest functioning in the greatest activity to the greatest receptive human souls? What's the blueprints for, what's the model or paradigm for building a house? Blueprints. And what's that for the sake of which? The first and final cause. For you to get blueprints, builders, building, and bricks, you need to have a reason. Timmy needs a place to live. Billy needs a place to live. Billy needs a base. So Billy needing a base is the first cause. That Billy needing a base needs the blueprints, builders, building, and bricks. But also, you only know when you finish your activity when you reach that for the sake of which, or the first and final cause, Billy is being Billy in his beautiful base of house. Billy is living there. Oh, what's that? I was too busy ordering takeout from interwebs to deliver to my job. I've reached peak gratification. We're saying how you were asking this question. What would it take for me to be the bricks able to be builded with? How can I become most receptive to my dream analysis? Which is, according to the model, the greatest activity you can do as a human being. We talked about the sort of preconditions required. Recording the dream, having some familiarity with what's involved in midwifery, having your nose in one of the books that we're reading. How can I master that so I can be a dialectician myself, the greatest functioning? The mean cause. And what's the blueprints that I'm using? The blueprints are everything that follows as a whole. We've been talking about this being the, where is it? All of the parts, and the functioning of understanding, or the dialectician, is to have your state of mind as that whole, functioning providentially of the parts. But there are two kinds of paradigms: mind, which is a whole of all parts, and self, or the ninth oxiding picture, which is a whole that transcends even parts. Not even a speck of dust can touch the whole of self. Its functioning is mind, which is a whole of parts. So there's two kinds of paradigms, two enlightenment experiences: the divine luminosity of mind in the eighth oxiding picture, or the second hypothesis, and the whole that transcends parts in the ninth oxiding picture, or the first hypothesis. But we're saying, well, we want to function. Whereas, what's going on here, says Yuri. Welcome, Yuri. I feel like I've entered midway. Yes. You entered about, 80% of the way through the text. We're about 120 episodes in. You can find the old episodes on YouTube. We are exploring the text, Jesus and Socrates, a dialogue in heaven, perhaps the greatest text ever written. It's a goddamn banger.
It's a guy whose head appears to be on backwards, and then half lady.
I apologize for my soundboard. It seems to be tripping out, seeing a man with a head on backwards and half lady. That's irrelevant. Ignore that.
Kant's a little fucking bitch.
Kant's a bitch. That's another... Sorry. We're exploring this text, which is a banger. Socrates and Jesus meeting each other in heaven and discussing their insight and their legacy to humanity. In it, about 80% of the way through the text, Socrates says, you know what? While we've been exploring the nature of human problems and suffering caused by a cognitive functioning called belief, that Jesus knows a lot about, because his followers got into belief, even though Jesus said, don't do that. You need to develop understanding to experience higher states of mind. But because he didn't write anything down, fuckface McGee, Paul, came along and said, oh yeah, Jesus actually told me, God told me that I'm better than Jesus, and you should ignore what Jesus says and just have faith and belief and do what I say. So ignorance, belief, and not understanding, believing some motherfucker. So while Socrates has been helping Jesus to see the inherent problems of belief and why it's the cause of human suffering, and every person has to go through this. Even if you're not religious, you got your own family clan beliefs by having been a baby at one stage and having to survive your upbringing. Now they're at a stage where it's like, okay, we see how we have to purify ourselves from our false beliefs about self and reality that function as our mask or false identity, that manifests as states of mind that are negative, that gives us a role that's negative. So all of those same causes applied negatively. So our first and final cause ain't the self. Our first and final cause ain't the self, but in our pathologos, which keeps us chained to our fate, inevitable negativity, a false image of yourself is your self-fulfilling prophecy. It begins, every drama, dream, tangent begins with you, not you, an image of yourself, and it ends up You ending up, when you go through your dramas, I guess I was right all along. I guess I sucked all along. So it's the first and final cause. It manifests as not the ideal state of mind, but your way of being, your feeling state. It allows you to not function as your ideal instrumental cause, doer, but a role. I'm Cinderella, I'm the slave of the family, I'm the joker of the family, I'm the warrior of the family, defending my Christian beliefs, whatever the fuck, whatever your role is. The activity is not the greatest activity. Reading, midwifery, dream analysis, reading about the logos. But interpretation, projecting your false beliefs, or being blind to any evidence or reason that opposes you, giving you the negative material cause, closed-minded, certainty, stuck in the anti-self, blocked from development, and fearing understanding. We all start here. Our job is to recognize these 5 causes, learn about the ideal version, to free ourselves from this belief. And then Socrates went ahead and said, now that we have been talking about that, now that you are open to higher states of mind, you're free to learn and develop, what are the stages of enlightenment? And Jesus said, you need to talk to Buddha, who's also chilling out in heaven here, because they have a kind of map for the stages of enlightenment called the 10 ox-herding pictures. And that's where we are. We've been going through the 10 ox-herding pictures. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. So the first ox-herding picture is a brief overview, but again, you can find a link to the YouTube below and you can go through it at your own pace. Even 2x speed it. If you want to hear me talk really fast. Me. I'm going to pretend I didn't say that.
Dude,
that was
suck my dick.
I deserve that. That was dorky. Searching from the bull. People who are, why bother going through the reading that we do here? Learning the dialectic, learning how to think properly, learning how to reason and talk properly, learning how to understand your dreams, understand your problems, and understand your excellence. Why do that? I already know dreams are meaningless. I already know what I am. I already am the best I am because I'm white, or I'm Christian, or I'm MAGA. First ox-herding picture. Because of your defilements, your ignorance, you have lost sight of the ox you're here to master. Seeking the ox. Physical gain, worldly gain motivate you. Get that Bugatti. Dread for loss. Hold your wealth. Heaven seems very fun here. Oh, yeah, we have fun. We have fun sound drops.
Bless you. Excuse you. Bless you.
Bless you and excuse you. I don't know why that's a drop.
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful. And he's handsome. I said it.
That's true also of me. Because my sound drop says so. Right?
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Yes, all of our heads are quite large and filled with secrets. So, the first ox-herding picture, seeking the ox. You're not even seeking. All of your ideas of right and wrong are just to use as daggers against people who oppose your own false beliefs. But maybe there are... I hear cicadas in the trees. Maybe there's another way of being. Number 2, discovery of footprints. Finding the ox tracks. Through the sutras and teachings, through the kinds of books that we read here maybe, you can discern that there are tracks of the ox, that your problems are solvable, and your excellence is reachable through understanding. But because you haven't jumped into the game yet, you can't distinguish truth from falsehood. But in a tentative way, you start to think maybe there's a reason for you being here that you can see through mastering your own understanding, making use of your ability to reflect on yourself. Ousia is the word we need for that. It's a Greek word, I know it's funny, but we need it. And logos, language, reason, another Greek word that we need to import. Because if you don't have a word, you can't see it. You can't see it, you can't use it. You're going to be stuck. So we need those 2 words. So hey, ousia and logos, you can reflect on yourself and you can understand yourself. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
So seeing the tracks, that's you there. That's the little man. You're seeing the tracks, but you're not seeing the ox yet. What does the ox mean? Perceiving the bull, first glimpse of the ox. You're starting to realize that in the instant you can have an insight into the very source of all things. That all of your senses can be perceived as a whole single sense. When you stop looking at this sight or sound or thought, but what is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking all at once right now? If you don't discern foreground from background, this sight from that background, or this sound from that background, but what if you take it all as a whole? Does it give you an insight into the source? Is it everywhere? Wow. Have you ever taken a lot of mushrooms? Have you ever done a lot of yoga? Have you ever had a near-death experience? Have you ever had a glimpse? Glimpsing the ox. But what artist could really nail it down? It seems to be ununderstandable. Who can know the nature of God? Oh, my preachers told me no one can, and I'll go to hell if I want to understand. Now, that can block you. But asking the question genuinely, what artist could actually, how can I actually understand this reality or source that I've had a glimpse of? That moves you into number 4. Catching the bull. Why? Because you're fighting, that's you, there's your little man there fighting against the ox. Because your old habits are stubborn and not broken easily. Your way of being in states of mind yearn from your old habits and old patterns and old friends and old ways of being. Ever had an insight? Talk to your friends about it? Do they make fun of you for being different? Do your family chastise you and mock you or threaten to kick you out because you've had this insight and you see things differently? Do you want to go back to them anymore? Back to their ignorance? Struggling against the ox. I got chocolate psilocybin, says Chatter, to take this Saturday. I heard it's an ego death if I take the whole thing. I wonder what ox-herding picture you'll find yourself in. And I hope you've been carrying questions from our time together in the stream. I wonder if those questions are sticking to your soul. Because to have a question is to be on a quest. Maybe I can meet the elves. Oh God, I hope not. that's Terence's imagery. But to have a quest is to have a question, and carry a question is to be on a quest. Concentration. To hold on to that question no matter what happens, doesn't matter how many elves you're talking to or how much chocolate you've eaten. To carry that question no matter what you're doing is meditation. That's be on a quest.
We definitely are not.
Whoop. Leveling up. And if you actually join with the object of your question that you're holding on to, which can be helped if you happen to be eating chocolate, that's the upgrade from concentration to meditation to contemplation. That's where you get a glimpse of this ox. Hey, don't drop your question. I appreciate the time I took out to listen to you. Oh, great. I'm always questioning shit and whatnot and try to keep up with you when I can. Yes, I go kind of fast, but I do a lot of repetition. Like we've been doing these ox herding pictures for about a week or two, and we're still only on 9. And they're about 2 hours long, or 2 to 3 hours long. So I do a lot of repetition. So if you keep with it, you start to notice things sinking in, or when you have your own insights, then things start to make sense. So stay with it. I think you should cater more to the short attention span of the human mind to maybe help your stream. Just food for thought. I wish how would I do that? My goal is to make, this is everyone's purpose. It's literally the purpose for every human being born. It's how we solve our problems. It's how we reach our excellence, and it's how we evolve. So the whole purpose of the stream is to share it because it's for everyone. And I want to live in a great world. It'd be nice if everyone was playing this best game. So if you have any ideas on how to share it, or even better, if you see, this is the thing, you're like Socrates. See, Socrates got the teachings from Parmenides and Diotima and then shared it to us. If you're like, you know what, I'm closer to the everyday non-philosopher than old Jed is, young sexy Jed is here, then maybe you can find a way of, at every stage of development you're at, find a way of sharing them in a way that appeals to the short attention span of the everyday gooners out there. And that might be better, because if you're new, then every step that you take will be one step ahead of the average person. In your Instagram reels or your YouTube content or your however you try and do it. Naruto fan fiction. So I might talk about 100 ideas, but this one stands out to you, and you can make an Instagram reel or a TikTok. Do we do TikTok anymore? Ugh. I don't want to appear dorky. I'm cool. I'm super cool.
I think it's so awesome.
And I'm awesome.
Die mad about it, bitch.
And if you disagree, you can die mad about it, bitch. So yeah, maybe it's something that you could do. Or if you have suggestions, you can drop them in the Discord. There's a Discord link below if you're not already a member. But yeah, it's for everyone. So, catching the... real quick, seeking the ox. Not really seeking. Finding the tracks. Is there our problems understandable, and is our goal reachable through understanding? 3, having a perception, however you get it. Is there an ox? Is there a source to all things? And is it my own perception, my own mind, my own self? Catching the ox. Now I'm paying attention to my dreams, my problems, and my reading to tame it and overcome my old patterns. Number 5, taming the ox. Taming the ox. Having some success now. My mind state's changing. It wasn't just a glimpse from eating a ton of chocolate or however I got the glimpse. Now I'm starting to integrate it into a greater state of consciousness. There you are, walking the bull. Riding the bull. Been in this dialectic game long enough to be able to play and help others through their problems or insights or reading or dreams. The bull transcended. I don't even need the method. I've separated my false image and way of being, my pathologos, cause of my own injustice. I've separated. I'm not there anymore. I don't even need midwifery. I'm free. But I'm still dreaming. Hey, being free of what's false isn't the same as knowing what's true. There's 2 parts, remember? So while I'm free and I don't need the method, once the trap has caught the rabbit, don't need the trap. Once the net has caught the fish, don't need the net. Once you're free of the pathologos. By the way, you're still moving through. You're still helping people as a dialectician riding the ox. Why not? But you don't need it. Now you're free to 8. Experience mind itself. The mind, the activity of mind or minding, and the object. So again, ousia. That's why the questions that we carry in everything we do, even when we're eating lots of chocolate, is always questions about self or mind. Because that's what you can join with. Now in 8, you've joined. The activity of wondering, the person wondering, the activity of wondering, and the thing you're wondering about. Mind, minding, mind are all one as a divine luminosity of oneness. Now you know that what you've removed through your efforts in 7, now you know directly you can't be that, because not even a snowflake could exist within the flame of divine luminosity. Of course you're not a small bean in a bad noodle. I'm experiencing myself as eternity. And it kicks ass.
It makes sense.
I do make sense.
I'm always good, and that is what I stand for, being good all the time.
Because I'm always good all the time. I have decided. It has been foretold by the oracle. No delusive feelings attached to your old ways of being that you've gone through those other oxiding pictures to remove. No pride, no shame, none of that. It's just what is. In that state of mind. Now, we've recognized that even in that luminosity, however you get there, well, ideally this way, even in that divine luminosity, there are footprints. There is a logos. If mind is knowable and intelligible, either as the oneness of 8 or as understanding, both, then there must be a source even of that. A higher logos. An ousia that transcends whole of all parts. A whole that transcends parts. Have that question and you might go through 8 to 9, reaching the source, dwelling in your true abode, the authentic self, unconcerned with within or without. Well, if it's all self and I know it now, why would I worry about the ups and downs of others or of the streams streaming and the flowers blossoming on their own, the waxing and waning of life? Unassertive, alone, observing. There's a puzzle. Because the puzzle of 9 is, why go through it? Why go through all this process just to be alone? Just to be alone in my house? Just to be watching? Having gone through this mastery of the dialectic to help flowers blossom, help society define laws that reflect the patterns of the streams to create a just world, benefit humanity. What's the point if I'm just alone in my house? Hey, it's as though he were now blind and deaf, sealed in his hut, seated in his hut. Why strive? Why worry? But again, there's a puzzle in this. Why go through the mastery of the logos only to be as though you're blind and deaf if you're sitting there not doing anything? So why not be blind and deaf to the beginning, from the beginning, and not pick up a pathologos only to learn what you need to do to remove it? Or, once you've removed it, you might as well be blind and deaf if you're sitting there by yourself doing nothing. Serene, alone, unassertive. But, remember the last line anticipates the next. Why would the streams meandering on of themselves and the red flowers naturally blooming, why would the movements of things, including other souls, and the blossoming of things, including other souls, be some anticipation of the next stage? What's the movement and patterns of reality and souls and intelligence and life and planets? And what's blooming, blossoming, learning? What's that got to do with someone who might as well be blind and deaf, sitting alone watching? How can that be an anticipation of the next stage? Or to say it another way, what do we get? Or what is the significance of us returning there with all of the work we've done today? The causes, the structure of the dialectic, the terms of the dialectic, the 3 basketball teams, the Venn diagram to understand the lesser, greater, and ultimate, the learning about the kinds of rejections people can have to truth, like the 8 we have so far. What's the point if we're just sitting alone? But neat for us to know the self and the source even of divine luminosity of the 8th. That's our question. Something to wonder about. Until next time, thank you to the new chatters for stopping in. I hope you found something to be curious about. Thank you for the old chatters for stopping in and sharing your thoughts, questions, ponderance, and future plans. I hope it goes well for you. when it does. And thank you for my listeners. Now, there is a lot of talk about my channel being botted for views. I get 6, last time I checked Twitch, I have 6 people who watch the VODs. They aren't botted like other channels, like those right-wing channels and the Prager channels and the Tim Pools and the Joe Rogans and the Joe Rogan spheres. I promise they're not bots, because
You piece of shit is a robot.
they're a piece of shit robots.
Further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
I don't want to fill the internet with spam.
He's an
and
AI guy.
slop. And I'm
I
not an
hate
AI
to have
guy
to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
because it's not. No, it's not fake.
It's sad. And I'm sad for
I'm
you.
sad for
Weird
you.
business, because it's like, you know, a bunch of stupid little robots trying to spam everybody to sell
No.
crap.
No, I'm not trying to do that. Those are the accusations, but I promise
Kant's a little fucking bitch.
that you're a bitch as well if you think that. If you want to follow along with Twitch, YouTube, links below. You want a link to the text, there's a PDF below. If you want to donate to the channel, that's much appreciated. There's a link below. And if you want to join the Discord, you can. Let me know how your birthday goes. And I will see you in the next one. I wonder what the 10th oxherding picture is going to be about. Can you imagine?